Do you ever feel like your brain is going to explode with sleep deprivation and questions and concerns and anxiety all around parenting?
Yes, I do for sure. Hi guys, welcome to the Mindful Mommies podcast. Mindful, full as in F-U-L-L. I am Brienne Morissette.
And I am Stina Martinez.
And we are sisters-in-law, and combined we have 4 very busy boys. Everyone, welcome to episode 1 of the Mindful Mommies podcast. Today we are talking about pregnancy and why it's okay to not love it.
And of course, for episode 1, I have a cold, so I apologize for the nasally voice. But the kids are out.
Yes.
We have a quiet house.
We have the house to ourselves.
And we're going to make this happen. We're really excited. So the other day, I was at work, and I was chatting with a coworker about pregnancy. And there's a bunch of people pregnant at work right now. And I was like, oh, man, I just really hated being pregnant. And she was like, really? She's like, me too. Thank you so much for your honesty. And I was like, yeah, man, I have no problem telling people how much I hate being pregnant. And she was like, you know, I've always felt guilty that I didn't like being pregnant. I had such a hard time with pregnancy. And everyone I talked to was like, oh, I love being pregnant. Oh, like I'm glowing and it's such a miracle. And she's like, but I just never felt that way. And I was like, no, me neither. And I can't tell you how many times I've been honest about my feelings around my pregnancies, and people have been so receptive and so grateful that I was being honest because they had similar feelings.
Yeah, and I think that happens a lot when you kind of open up to people and share your experience, and all of a sudden you have these people coming to you and saying, oh, thank God for sharing what you went through, because I feel the exact same way, and this is my story, and this is what I've been through, and I think that there's all these shoulds that kind of go along with being pregnant. Like, I should be thankful, I should be appreciative, I should be excited, and oh my goodness, look at all the people that can't have babies. And I think that's very apparent right now with our generation and our age group of friends, is that that's one thing that we're really, really noticing, is that there are people really, really struggling to conceive, to be able to carry a pregnancy. So yeah, there's lots of guilt that's attached with those feelings. Now, we're also very aware that not everybody doesn't like being pregnant, and that there's a lot of people that love being pregnant.
And all the power to them. Like, absolutely. All the power to them. Oh, man. I'm hoping, maybe one of these days I'll have a pregnancy and I'm going to love it.
Yes.
That might happen.
Yeah, and I have to say, I was one of those people that I had my first pregnancy. I really actually felt really, really good. I was one of those people that was super lucky, and I didn't have nausea. However, that was a little anxiety inducing, because I was going, oh my God, is my baby okay? Because I have struggled with miscarriage before. I've had 2 miscarriages before my first baby. So I think that for me, with my first pregnancy, I really, really was just so over the top excited that I had made it past the 3-month marker, and so I was just like so focused on that, and was like, yay, I can feel my baby kicking, and there's a heartbeat, and oh my goodness, this is a first time for me, and I was just totally experiencing everything that was wonderful about pregnancy. And once again, I was lucky. I didn't experience nausea, and I had extreme exhaustion, but no nausea. And I think that can be really debilitating for some people. I've had friends that are just in bed for days on end, and they cannot function with nausea.
Yeah. I've had some friends that have had a really difficult time.
And you struggled with nausea a bit too, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I had my strategies and my ginger beer, my ginger ale, and my morning smoothies and things, and my goldfish crackers to help me through it. But
really, I mean, it seems to be that there's not much you can do about it. However, if you are struggling, it's a good idea to go and talk to your doctor, because there are definitely some options as far as medication goes that can be helpful for you, and I know have been really helpful for other people.
Yeah, and the good news is that at the end of the first trimester, for most people, it usually ends and people start to feel a lot better and have more energy and less nausea.
So, Stina, going back to the beginning, tell us how pregnancy unfolded for you.
Well, my first pregnancy was a little bit of a different experience. I was very fortunate in that a friend of mine who I was working with and was super close with let me know that she was pregnant. And I went home that day and was like, to my husband, I was like, hey, I think we should have a baby. My friend's pregnant, let's do it. And we were like, okay, let's give it a try. And one shot wonder. I did sort of go into shock when I found out that I did get pregnant right away. I thought that it was going to take a long time because I had so many friends that it was taking months and years, and I didn't think it was going to happen so quickly. And so I did sort of go through this like period of, oh my God, I don't have time to like get used to this idea. It's just happening, and I thought I would have the time to get used to it. And I'm a very stubborn person at times, so I've been told. And one thing that comes with pregnancy is a lot of people telling you what to do. And as a child and teenager, and even as an adult, I don't really like to be told what to do very much. And all of a sudden you're pregnant, and it's like, okay, you can't eat sushi, and you can't eat like sliced meats, and you have to worry about all these things that you never even thought about. I remember someone told me like you're not supposed to eat soft serve ice cream, and it was I was pregnant in the summer, and all I wanted was like smoothies and ice cream
and cheese.
And milkshakes, and I was like, I can't go to McDonald's and get a milkshake. Not that I normally go to McDonald's and get a milkshake, but I was like craving a Shamrock Shake. I wanted a Shamrock Shake so badly, but then I had all this guilt because I was like, oh, what if I get listeria from the Shamrock Shake that I'm craving? And so I just couldn't have a Shamrock Shake. And it's these ridiculous things that like normally you wouldn't want, but because you're pregnant, you're not supposed to do all these things. And then you're told like, no, you can't do this. And it was so frustrating for me. So I went through an adjustment period, let's say, where I found it very frustrating to not be able to do all the things that I like to do. Like I loved hot yoga. I couldn't do hot yoga anymore at that time. And
I think it's also really important to say that this is very typical of a first-time pregnancy. I think that
from our experience,
have this, paranoia of that you're going to hurt your baby, or something's going to happen, or you're going to do something wrong, or eat something bad, or whatever it is. But now that we've had our kids, and we both had 2 pregnancies, it's I think you're a lot more laid back, especially with the second one, and realize that all of that stuff that they put in your head is a bit over the top.
Yes.
However, it is also very important to do your research, talk to your doctor, make sure that you are doing the right things. But
totally. Oh man, yeah. And then I remember with one of my pregnancies, I think my second, I went to the midwife and I was measuring big, and both my babies, they told me I was going to have giant babies, which they weren't giant. They were
totally
they're
normal,
8 pounds
average.
And I think I just the way I have a short torso, I think, so my belly goes out really far. I don't know, this is self-diagnosis. But I was told both times you're gonna have a giant baby, and both times they were 8 pounds, and it was totally fine. But the second one, I was told that I was measuring too big, and I gained quite a bit of weight. I remember the midwife telling me like, oh yeah, you should just probably think about cutting out sugar. And I was looking at her like, are you crazy?
Yeah.
Like now you're going to tell me that I can't have too much coffee, I can't have sushi, I can't have salami, I can't go in the hot tub, and now I can't have sugar?
Don't forget about the wine.
Yeah, I can't have wine, and now I can't have sugar. You've got to be kidding me. Oh my gosh.
And it's so funny because you're so vulnerable when you're pregnant and emotional, and it's like, those are the things that you need. You're like, oh, I could just use like a hot tub and a glass of wine or a beer, and you can't have that. Okay, so aside from the nausea and the rules and restrictions that we've sort of covered, what are some other things that you felt like you experienced that were difficult, and how did you cope with them during this time?
Yeah, it's so funny thinking back, because it's been, 7.5 years, 8 years. It does become a little bit foggy, especially with the first pregnancy. But one thing that like vividly sticks out in my mind was I had really bad indigestion and sciatic nerve pain as I got bigger. And I had this really weird pain. Oh my gosh, anyone that worked with me at this time would remember this. I'm a teacher, and I would always sit in my classroom, and I had to have my left arm up and behind my head to give space under my left rib, because I had this weird pain at all times, and it was like this crazy pressure, and I would have to press down where the baby was pushing and have my arm up above my head. And I remember teachers would walk by my classroom and look at me with my arm above my head and just like smile and be like, "Oh, poor Stina, she's so giant, trying to push that baby down." So that was really weird. And then I had this crazy sciatic nerve pain, and I did my yoga teacher training while I was pregnant with my first baby. And I remember trying to do a lot of the poses, and we had to sit like in easy pose a lot of the day while we were doing the training. And it was really hard for me because of this crazy sciatic nerve pain. So however the baby was positioned, he was pressing on my sciatic nerve, and it would send shooting pains down the back of my leg.
Oh.
But I do think the yoga helped with it, because I was stretching all the time, but it was so uncomfortable. And there was nights where I had to like literally crawl on all fours to get to the bathroom so that I could go pee. The like 10 times in the night I would have to go pee so that the pain wouldn't be shooting down the backs of my legs, which was insane.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Awful. It's awful.
Yeah. And I remember I was pregnant in the summer, and I would wear dresses, and like, I love being outside, loving the beach. I love being at the pool. It's my happy place. And I would go for coffee at the same coffee shop every morning, go get my like iced decaf Americano or whatever, and go to the pool. And the coffee shop lady would always be like, "Oh, you're such a beautiful pregnant lady." And I just remember smiling and being like, "Thanks." But in my head, I was like, I just want this to be done now, as I like waddled down the street with my sciatic nerve pain with my left hand above my head.
And the funny thing is that you actually do waddle. At the end of your pregnancy, you're like, "I am waddling." Like I'm literally waddling down the street.
Yeah.
As I can only make it like one block.
Yeah. Trying to hold that baby in there. I mean,
Was there anything that helped you with the sciatica that you did?
There were a lot of stretches I did that were really good. I do remember that. Like a lot of yoga stretches that I did. Happy Baby was a good one.
So what is Happy Baby?
Where you lie on your back and like stretch your legs out. Like anything that would stretch the backs of your legs would help. I did a ton of cat-cow poses where you're on all fours. Because I was really wanting to like strengthen my core, and I think that did help me in the labor and delivery process too. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm sure yoga in general helped everything.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was also the position of the baby. So when you're on all fours, I remember my midwife telling me like, go on all fours and like rock your hips, and that way you're providing space for the baby, and then the baby can like move and shift and yeah.
And then indigestion was a big one for you
Oh,
too.
yeah. Oh, man. I remember I couldn't eat anything deep fried. Nothing deep fried. Nothing spicy.
Check that one off the list as well.
Yeah. Nothing spicy. Nothing deep fried. No fries. No curry. And all I wanted was like icy cold things like smoothies. And I would make my own milkshakes at home. I was obsessed with making milkshakes and smoothies, and that was what I lived off of pretty much, because it was the only thing that wouldn't give. I like had a giant thing of Tums beside my bed and was.
And I think I remember. Tell me if I'm wrong, but you would be like, "Last night I slept sitting up."
Yeah. that would help. I would like put pillows on the incline so that I wouldn't wake up in the middle of the night with indigestion and like burning.
It's like pregnancy gets you ready for the sleepless nights when the baby comes. It's like, start to get uncomfortable now because it's going to be real uncomfortable when that baby comes.
Yes. Oh, and my hips would ache. I couldn't sleep. Like if I slept on one side, then my hips would start to ache. So I was constantly flipping, but then you're not supposed to sleep on your back. And then it's better to sleep on your left side and your right side. Oh, and you're worrying about these things in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Anyways. Yeah. So how about you?
Oh, well, like I said before, I think my first pregnancy is kind of like boring because I actually have to say, like, I felt really good during it. I mean, I gained 30, 40 pounds, and God, that was tough to get off. And I don't think I ever really did get that off. I don't remember having anything that stands out in my mind with my first pregnancy. One thing that just popped into my head now is that I did have really severe leg cramps.
Oh, yeah.
Where I would wake up in the middle of the night and it was like my leg it was like the muscle inside my leg was going to explode out of my leg.
Yeah.
And it's the most bizarre thing because it hasn't happened since. But what I've read up on is that I think with pregnancy that the baby is taking a lot of your nutrients from you. So it was a magnesium deficiency. And once I started to kind of load up on lots of water and magnesium and that, then it seemed to help. And then having my husband just like massage my leg when it happened. But it's scary when it happens because you feel like, oh my God, this is so painful. Is this going to go away? And then it does. You just massage it out. That was the one thing with that first pregnancy. And then I had a pretty traumatic labor with my first pregnancy.
Yeah.
I lost a lot of blood, and there was a moment where it got really scary. But that's another podcast. Yeah. We'll talk about our whole labor birth stories some other time. Yeah. But the second one, the second one was a whole different story. I was pretty miserable for the second one. And what I think happened with me with the second one was because I had experienced two miscarriages before my first baby, Jake, I was sort of expecting to have trouble with the next one. And we got to a place with Jake where he was sleeping through the night. Everything was just really smooth. We were happy. It was, it was summertime. You had announced your second pregnancy and I got baby fever. And I was just like, it's time. Let's do this. Yeah. And I got pregnant instantly, 2 weeks after you did. Yeah. And I think it took one try and that was it. Yeah. And the funny thing was that we were going to do everything we could to attempt to have a girl because we wanted a boy girl. And I just got this I just got impatient and I was like, no, we're not doing that. We're just going to go for it. And whatever happens, happens. And Stina's pregnant and I need to get pregnant with her and we're going to do this together. And so that's what happened. I got pregnant. And I remember the day I found out I was pregnant, got went and did a pregnancy test. Of course, I bought 5. Yeah. And I was home with Jake by myself. Stefan, my husband, was at work. And I took the test and it was boom, pregnant. And I was I had this feeling of real excitement, but just okay, oh my God, this is happening. FaceTime Stefan, and I remember his reaction. He's sitting at his desk. We were FaceTiming. And he's in his office chair and it has wheels on it. And I got Jake to hold up the pregnancy test. And I was like, we're pregnant. And he pushed off of his desk and the chair went flying back and he was like, you're kidding me. Happened that fast. And then it was that moment, that night, it's like I had a few hours to process it. And I was at home by myself. Jake was napping. And my brain started to just go in circles. Yeah.
And how old was Jake at this time?
And Jake was, at this time he had just turned 1.
Yeah.
And so I started to just spin, and I started going, oh my God, I'm going to have 2 under 2. These two are 21 months apart. I started to do the math. It was like reality hit.
Yeah.
And I went into a full-on state of anxiety and panic from that day on. Like literally the first day I found out I was pregnant, and my anxiety lasted for 3 months, and it was rough. I started to not sleep. I had extreme insomnia. I was having anxiety attacks. I was having depression. And I was taking care of a toddler at the same time and going through all this. And you can imagine not being able to sleep when you're pregnant. I mean, we all have trouble sleeping, but actually not being able to fall asleep and lying there in bed awake while your whole family is sound asleep. And you know how tired you are, and you just want to go to bed. You just want to sleep all day, all night. And I couldn't nap. I couldn't sleep through the night. And I would have to wake up every morning and do it all over again. And it was awful. It was awful. And there were, I'm trying to put on the happy face, like everything's fine, and people are going, you're pregnant, you must be so happy, you must be, oh my God, you're going to have 2 under 2. And in the back of my mind, I'm going, what have I done to myself? What have we done? What have I done? I want to take this all back. And I did not want to be pregnant. I remember having the first ultrasound. And it actually, this is hard to admit, and this is super raw and emotional, and it's a trigger for a lot of people, but I remember going in and thinking, if this baby if I don't hear the heartbeat, I might be okay with it. And that was like it was an awful moment, because I had extreme guilt over that, and I had also been someone that had experienced miscarriage before. And so I was just so down on myself for feeling those feelings and thinking, if this wasn't meant to be, then I'm fine with that. Like in my mind, I should have been like, no, this needs to happen. I want this to happen. I want this baby.
Yeah.
And now, eventually I came around and I got through it, but it was 3 months of hell. And the pregnancy got easier. And once I hit the second trimester, it was like a light bulb went off. Like the light switch just flicked off. And I was like, the cloud lifted, and I started to feel excitement about my baby, and I started to feel him move, and I was able to cope better with Jake, and I hired a nanny to help, and I talked to a therapist, and I got lots of help, and I got my family on board to help. And I think that was the big thing, was that I had to be honest with my family that I am not coping well right now, and I need you all to step in, whether you help me, in the nicest way possible. I wasn't trying to like order people around, but I had to delegate. I had to be like, have a real conversation with myself about not coping okay, and that I needed my mom to step in. I needed help from friends, from my husband. I needed my husband to come home earlier from work. Whatever I needed to do, I just needed to be okay with. Like, that it's okay that I needed that help. And it got me through. And I look back and I look at my little boy, my perfect little angel Wesley, who is just like the happiest, sweetest, always smiling, bright soul. And I go, I can't believe that there was a moment in my life where I didn't want you. And I try not to focus on that, but it's just amazing how time heals, and how you can feel like you're just in the darkest place, and that you're never going to get out of it, and that it passes, that it always passes. And that's one thing that I have really learned. And I'm someone who struggles with anxiety. I've always, since I was 20 years old, struggled with anxiety. And that's another podcast that we'll be covering. So stay tuned for that. But for all you mamas out there who are who are going through what I went through with anxiety and insomnia. It is no joke, and it's tough. It's really tough, but you get through it, and there is, there's a whole nother side to going through that, and it passes.
Yeah. And I think it's so powerful and so true what you said about reaching out and building your tribe and
Absolutely.
connecting to all of that community around you, because you don't have to do it alone.
No,
right?
you don't.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I knew that because I had struggled and had gone through that 3-month period of dealing with the anxiety and depression and the insomnia, I got my army in place for when I had that baby.
Yeah.
And I had, I was like, I don't care if it costs money. I don't care if I offend people. I don't care what it takes, but I'm bringing a baby into this world, and I need an army around me to ensure and to help me get through these difficult first 3 months of having this baby, because I have the potential to slip back into what I went through before, and I'm not going to let that happen. And so I had people ready and in place to be there to help me with my oldest child, help me through the night if I needed it. There's so many resources out there that moms can use if they're just in a total dark hole. You're not alone, and there's so many moms going through it, and I feel like people don't know enough about the resources that are out there for these moms that are going through this,
Yeah, because you're just so overwhelmed by everything. Yeah. It's hard to know where to start, where to begin. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, we're diving into a different topic now, which is after birth and after pregnancy.
Yeah.
And we'll be sure to cover all that stuff too.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. So I guess what if someone were to ask you, what are the top 3 things that you that helped you prepare for the big day in finishing our podcast here? What do you feel was the most helpful that our listeners can take away,
Yeah.
or that they can do?
Well, when I was pregnant, I was younger. I was 29, turning 30.
Yeah, which does seem young.
Yeah, seems a long time ago now.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a ton of friends that had kids yet, and so I did feel quite alone at the time. I had one really good friend, and I was able to reach out to her. My mom was a huge resource because she's worked with babies and kids, and so I did reach out to her a lot too. But joining
Your mom has been such a huge support for both of us, I think. Yeah. My mom too, for sure. Sorry to interrupt, but your mom is a social worker. Yeah. And works with women who are pregnant. And,
and spent many years working in the NICU, and
pretty huge for both of us.
Yeah.
Shout out to Lena.
She's a big resource. So reaching out to her, and just anyone that I knew and could ask questions to, because I would obviously Google things. I was told by someone, whatever you do, don't Google, and don't read the book What to Expect When You're Expecting. Because it tells you all the good, bad, and the ugly. It's not just the good. There's some scary stuff in there too, and it's good to be educated, but I think sometimes you can be overly educated about things too.
What is it? What's the saying? Something is bliss.
Oh yeah, ignorance is bliss.
And it's so true when it comes to labor.
Yeah,
you don't need to know.
Well, I don't know if I agree with you on that. I'm not sure because my friend at the time who was pregnant with me, she with my first pregnancy, she gave birth first, and I remember she was in this after she had her baby, she was in this blissful look at my baby, he's so beautiful, blah blah blah, and she was all positive about her baby and in love with her baby, of course. And then 3 weeks later, I gave birth, and I remember calling her and being so upset with her. I was like, how could you not tell me how crazy and scary that was going to be?
That would have helped you.
That's the thing is like now when first time moms,
Yeah.
I'm very cautious not to scare them because you want to believe that, you know, it's going to be okay and you need that.
Yeah.
One thing that I did, we didn't really get much into it, was hypnobirthing. And this is where you're like, it's positive affirmations, it's positive thoughts. And my friend had done it. And so I did it and I recorded my voice saying these positive affirmations. I see a beautiful birth. I see my, you know, my baby coming into the world peacefully. I see a healthy baby. I see a healthy birth. I feel the waves and like all these positive affirmations. And I recorded these affirmations, and then that whole preparation of doing that did help me prepare for the day. And then at the time when I was sitting there, like in the hospital, I ended up, remember, like chucking my headphones and my phone across the room and being like, "This is not working. This is not working for me.
Making me more agitated."
No, but it did help me like mentally prepare for the day. I did a lot of prenatal yoga, which really, really helped me prepare as well, as far as like positions and breathing. And then another thing that helped me was a few different books. I loved Ina May Gaskin's book, her Guide to Childbirth. It's not for everyone, but it's basically a collection of birth stories, and she's a midwife. So if that's something you're interested in, it's like just a bunch of different birth stories, and some of them are home births, some of them are at birthing centers in the States. They have these birthing centers that are sort of in between hospital and home. And some of them end up being in the hospital. Some are C-section, some are
we'll provide
natural.
a link.
Yeah, we can link to that book because it was a great resource. And then my midwives were so amazing. And if I was ever like having a panic attack, like, oh, the baby hasn't moved enough, I would like just drop by the midwife's office and they'd let me listen to the heartbeat. And
that's a great thing to know for you moms out there that are expecting that. If you are with a midwife, they're pretty open to you just popping in and hearing the heartbeat.
Yeah.
I bought myself a Doppler, and that's very controversial because some actually midwives and doctors recommend not doing that. For me, it was a lifesaver because I had, once again, experienced miscarriage. I wanted to wake up every morning and check that heartbeat.
Yeah.
And I did, and it got me through.
Where I felt like I didn't want that because it would cause me more anxiety if I couldn't find it, if I couldn't do it. Yeah. Like I remember Brie would be like, "Oh, you can use my Doppler," and I was like, "Nope, nope, not gonna use it, not gonna use it because it's gonna. If I don't hear exactly what I expect to hear, that's going to make me." That's going to make me freak out.
Yeah.
So it was not for me, but I understand that it was for you.
My thinking with that was, okay, if I don't hear the heartbeat, I zip right down to the midwife and she'll help me find it.
Yeah.
Or something's wrong and I need to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
Right away.
Yeah.
Instead of leaving it.
Yeah.
So that was my way of like saying it's okay that you have this Doppler, but to each their own.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, what about you? What were your top 3 things that helped you prepare for the big day?
Okay, so mine are talking about that army, getting that army of people around you, not necessarily to have in the labor and delivery room or whatever at your home birth, but just to kind of, I think that brings peace of mind, knowing that you have plan A, B, and C available when you need it, because that helped for me to reduce a lot of the anxiety around what's going to happen when I have this baby. Am I going to cope? Am I going to be okay with having a toddler and a baby at the same time? So that was really big. Get my army of people. And when I mean army, I mean like if you have parents that are involved, get them to commit to a day a week where they can take your oldest child out or they can take the baby for a walk so you can get some sleep. If you have anxiety or if you're dealing with depression, make sure you have somebody that you can talk to that you trust, meaning a therapist. For me, what was really great was my girl, who I just love to death, and I would love to have her on the show. She just said to me, "Brianne, don't worry about coming into the office. If you need to just call me, let's have a session on the phone. Let's just talk on the phone." And so I could be sitting on my couch with my baby in my arms and talking to her on the phone. And that was huge. And I have no shame that I had somebody who I talked to. I needed it and I needed her and she got me through.
Yeah.
Get your husband, your significant other on board. Let him know your anxieties. Let him know you're feeling bluesy, if that's the case for you, and tell him that, you know, how can you help us get through this? How can you leave later in the morning for work? Can you stay and help me? You know, can you stay so I can sleep in? Can you come home earlier so I can go upstairs and have a bath? You know, what can you do? Can you go and spend time with the toddler on the weekends? You know, have a special day with daddy so I can just like be with the baby at home and relax. Whatever you need to do, get those
or be pregnant and nap.
Yes, exactly. And then I think the other one was, I just put talking about your feelings. Obviously, if you're not feeling okay, talk to your friends about it. Talk to people. Like I had Stina, I had an amazing other girlfriend who was going through pregnancy with me at the same time. Her baby's 10 days younger than mine. And we would call each other every morning and be like, how did you do last night? How are you feeling this morning? Oh, I feel like crap. Oh my God, I'm so nauseous. I remember she really struggled with nausea. I was exhausted. I was not sleeping. And we were just there for each other. And if you don't have somebody like that, reach out to other people. Like find somebody, find a community find somebody who's going through it. And I don't know, find them on Instagram, start to have conversations with them.
Or there's so many like prenatal groups too, right? Like different community centers. Ask the midwife, ask your doctor.
Because if you just are bottling things up inside, you're gonna explode one day, and it's gonna be worse for you. So the more you can get it out, the better. And then
and if you're having a blissful, lovely pregnancy and you love it all, then that is
as we're on the negative train. I know
that is awesome.
I think that's really important to know is that some people maybe don't relate at all to this.
Yeah.
I can tell you, with my first pregnancy, I was not one of those people. In fact, I probably would have heard this podcast and been like, I don't relate. I'm actually enjoying this right now.
Yeah.
So that's normal too, and good for you guys. Like everybody wishes that they could have that, you know?
Yeah.
So that's amazing.
Yeah.
So anyways, that is it for today.
It's been about our pregnancies, and that we just wanted people, you know, to know that it is okay if you don't love being pregnant, and it's okay if you love being pregnant too. But from what I've heard from talking to so many people, is that often they feel a certain shame or guilt that comes along with not loving being pregnant, and we just wanted to share our stories so that people out there understand that. You know, Brie loved her first pregnancy, didn't love her second. I had a hard time with both of my pregnancies in different ways, and that's okay. Everyone's got a different journey, and the most important thing I think we're getting at, I think our takeaway is to build your tribe, build your community. You're not alone. Reach out to people. Yeah, and if you guys have any questions for us, please
DM us on our Instagram page. We're at the Mindful Mummies podcast.
Yeah.
And and stay tuned because we'll be talking about home birth.
Yeah.
And miscarriage. That's coming up.
Yeah.
So we hope you enjoyed our first episode. High five. We did it.
Woohoo!
Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening.